Is this thing working? Are we live? Man, it looks like we're live. What is happening, everybody? I hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you are watching this. Uh, so, Two Wheel Tuesday, what is this show? Well, I'm basically talking about motorcycle related content. It's more or less a background noise generator for somebody doing something way more important than whatever it is that I'm talking about, I'm sure. But the main thing is that gives you something to listen to while you're passing the time. Um, Here's the other thing too. It allows me to talk about topics that were on standalone videos, and allows me to chat on things a little bit more in depth, a little bit more candidly sometimes, as well as work through some show ideas that maybe didn't quite or couldn't quite make it through multiple takes or whatever. It's just easier to talk about them in the live show. So in saying that, you never really know how live shows go. These things can either be 20 minutes or 2 hours. You just never know really what the duration is. So no real format to the show, just me hanging out with you guys. And it's an opportunity for you to interact wherever it is down there over here in the comments below. Um, and, throw me a bone if you want. So anyway, we're talking about leader bikes tonight. Main reason why we're talking about leader bikes is recently did the ride and review, the second look at the CBR 1000RR from a GSXR 750 owner's perspective. Check out that video if you haven't already. We're going to be talking about that. I did a ride and review and then a post ride. This is going to be a little bit more like we're hanging out at the bar afterwards, and I'm just going to ramble on about some things about that bike that I really either couldn't get to or didn't get to in those two videos. So checking in with you guys straight away. Miki is in. Bruce is saying it had me worried for a minute. Yeah, came in a little bit late, was working on something leading up to this, and was trying to work through a couple of ideas for upcoming bikes for the channel. So we can definitely talk about that. So yeah, there's some things I wanted to talk about on the leader bike side because, look, here's the thing. Middleweights are becoming more and more popular, what with the R9 leading the charge, followed up by the V2 Panigale from Ducati, which is really not on a lot of people's radar, unfortunately, because of cost. By all accounts, it's a great bike, albeit a little bit big, but it's good for the street. And then finally, KTM releases their RCR 990 with a 950 something cc parallel twin, making what sounds like a lot of power, but it's expensive too. So it's one of these things where I'm looking at potentially picking up another middleweight or potentially picking up another heavyweight bike, but it's not going to be a leader bike. And see, here's the thing. Whenever I am, oh, wait, hold up. I got some guys chiming in. I'm hanging at the shop while listening. Southern Indiana, my man, what is up? And then Bruce is chilling in the bed. I like it. Cheers, fellas. So here's the thing. Talking about leader bikes, this is the one thing that I'm finding out about this latest crop of the most modern leader bikes that are out there. And I'm talking specifically R1, CBR 1000 RR. I'm going to leave Kawasaki out of this for just a hot minute. But I want to also talk about the GSXR 1000 as it is going to be in 2027, not how it has been up to 2025. So, in my recent ride and review, the CBR 1000 RR, I did that video as a little bit of a self-serving video because, yeah, I rode my GSXR 750 to the dealership, but I wasn't planning on riding it home. And I need that to be kind of the overriding baseline to this bit topic portion of the video right here. And I'm not kidding when I say this. That CBR 1000 RR, in essence, the exact same bike that I had ridden for the first ride and review. Not the same bike, but the same layout. Non-ABS, non-quick shift, which is exactly the bike that I wanted. So when I rode it, I was reminded, though, of a couple of things. One is the throttle mapping on that bike is extremely inconsistent, and that was off-putting enough for me to not take the bike home. Not that it couldn't have been tuned out of the bike, and not that it was a bad thing. What do you mean? If it's not a bad thing and you can't be tuned out, why didn't you bring it home? Well, because Suzuki GSXR 1000 exists. So there's the chorus, okay? You got the bass line, there's your chorus. The CBR 1000 RR is easily the most comfortable, easily the easiest to get along with on the street. Easy. I mean, it's, drinking game next time I say easy, right? But the reality is that it's a better leader bike for somebody that has maybe no experience with a bike like a GSXR 750. And this was a point that I was trying to make, or that I was, I guess, getting to at some point, but then I just couldn't ever, I just couldn't cross this over the finish line. If you were coming into the CBR 1000 RR and your previous experience, for example, would have been on an R9, then that would make sense. You would get into the CBR RR, even if you this is I want a bike. I don't like the quick shifter thing. I don't need ABS, but I do want a leader bike. But I don't want a leader bike that is race ready. I want something that's comfortable. I want something that's great on the street, but something that is always looking after me. I don't feel comfortable with leader bike power, but I want to become comfortable at some point with it. Allow me to deliver to you a CBR 1000 RR. It absolutely fits the bill, and it's the smallest of the leader bikes. And I got to tell you, I felt from an ergonomic point of view more at home on the CBR 1000 RR than I did on the R1 or on the GSXR 1000. And I mean that full stop. And I loved Red Alert. I love my 2025 GSXR 1000. And there are times where I kind of miss that bike enough to where I kind of wish I wouldn't have let it go. Okay. That's not a joke. I really do kind of miss that bike a lot. And significantly more stable at high speed than my R model. It's not even worth talking. I don't even want to bring that bike into the conversation. Because that, as much as I love the look of the X-Star bike, the red bike was just far and away a better bike. But that being said, I couldn't get past the nannies on the CBR 1000 RR. And the problem is that the CBR 1000 RR in what I'll call one mode. If I say one mode, it just means the least intrusive. It's kind of like shorthand. R1 does the same thing. So if you, or Yamahas do the same thing, Suzuki's as well. So if you put them in mode A, mode 1, whatever, that lowest number is going to be the most aggressive. The CBR 1000 RR in one mode was like putting the GSXR 1000 in on a scale, because it has 10 levels to traction control and wheelie control, which are baked into each other. It's like putting that thing on 7. What the hell is going on with that bike? Now, that being said, and I tried to make sure I made this point clear, that it's not a bad thing that the CBR 1000 RR is a bit neutered when it comes to nannies, even in one mode. Mode 1, you have one mode, which is manual mode. You put everything in one. Mode 1 is one of the riding modes. It's less aggressive than putting everything at one in a user profile, and in the owner's manual, it lists that as good for track riding. What? No. I mean, maybe for a guy that's just getting into doing track days, and you're in C group or at the very most B group. I doubt the guy's going to be in B group though. Probably a novice or probably in C group. Let's say you're in C group, you can still do passing, but you're being monitored, for example. That is where the CBR 1000 RR as stock would fit in well. Where a bike like the GSXR 1000, whatever group you want. I mean, I'd be mid-pack A group, or at least in A group with that bike as it comes from the factory right after doing the first oil change. I mean, there wouldn't be anything holding me back. And that's where the Suzuki does a really good job of acting like, or the nannies acting like they're not even working. I get that they may be, and I was able to upset mine every once in a while. But I had to be doing something dumb to do it. Like I would try to get the nanny to kick in A1 mode. And again, I could do it, but it was tough to do it. Whereas the Honda, it was omnipresent as you were riding that machine. So that was the only issue that I had with that bike. I know you can tune a lot of that out. Throttle mapping is something that for an experienced rider, like for a novice rider, you may not even notice the nuances with the throttle on the CBR 1000 RR with it being inconsistent or whatever. It's not a knock on somebody. It's just like you just don't have the resume built up yet. You don't have you're trying to power out of a corner. I'm looking through the corner and I'm really trying to pour the coals to it to get a little bit of slide or a little bit more pull on that bike as I'm getting it to straighten up. If I've got nannies coming into play and the bike kind of surges a little bit, I'm thinking something's wrong with the bike. It's somebody that's not used to that kind of stuff. They just know, and they're used to that kind of nanny stuff anyway. If they came from, an R9 or, something smaller even before that, that does have a lot of rider intervention. And the problem is that if you've got a bike, you're saying, okay, I want you to just turn it all off, right? Would make sense. But the problem there is that now I've got a bike that is in essence 190 horsepower that I still feel like has an inconsistent throttle map. And I never had a problem with turning off track control with my GSX-R 1000s because I couldn't really tell the difference. And I would just run it in mode 1 just in case. And really, there was a little bit of wheelie control in there that I liked that would kind of keep the bike in check on really high speed runs. But it was very minimal. You could feel the wheelie control kicking in on the CBR 1000. Just riding the thing down the road, you would get these minor undulations with that power as it would fade in and out. There's a part where I'm getting the bike back onto the motorway and I'm rolling into the throttle. And I even say lots of nannies in play right here. I mean, that's a spot where I'll try to like haze the tire a little bit for you guys so you can see the tack flash over, do a little power wheelie or something like that. And, it's just like part of riding a motorcycle. This isn't anything wild or crazy. You know what I mean? And that bike, even in not mode 1, but the all ones mode, one mode instead of mode 1, it was still doing it. Okay, so take that experience and then rinse and repeat for the R1. And that was a 2019 R1. And my gosh, I'll tell you this, if that bike wouldn't have done what it did with the rider aids, and I had it in all ones mode 2, that some gun would be sitting about 5 or 10 feet right behind me right now. I loved the R1. We check with you guys. Southern Indiana saying, loving my MT-07. Kept the mod simple with a tail tidy and a quick shifter. This year is, I want to do mirrors and new front marker and turn signals. Nice. Dress it up, make it look good. Saying, I do believe my next bike will be an R9 or an MT-09. Okay. So, we're going to get to the R9 here in just a second. Don't let me get off of this show without talking about the R9, because I do want to bring it up as a bit of point of reference here. But getting back over to it, the R1 had the same kind of an affliction to it that, let's go down the list, the CBR 1000 RR had, the Tuono V4 had, and to a slightly lesser extent, the XSR 900 had that I rode. And by the way, that bike was tuned, didn't know it. Loved that. That's the bike that won Sport Naked of the Year last year for me. So, but again, it's these more proactive rider aids that For a lot of guys, they just kind of get in the way. It's kind of weird feeling when those things start to kick in. Now, you might say, well, what does it feel like with the GSX-R 1000? You don't feel anything. I mean, the GSX-R 1000 comes across as natural as you can possibly imagine. There's nothing there to act weird. There's nothing there to distract you. I mean, if it does bobble, or if it does, do the whole thing, with the power where it flutters or it drops the butterflies back before it opens them back up, it's typically when I'm doing something pretty hairy with the bike. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Well, thank you for keeping everything cool for me. Whereas the other bikes in that position, they simply don't allow you to do anything. So they're proactive rather than reactive. Reactive in that the bike senses that something is going a little bit the way it maybe ought not go. And instead of trying to bend the laws of physics, it just pulls you back a little bit. Okay. And really, so here's the thing. This is why I like that better. This is the other point that I was trying to get to. That type of a system, a reactive system, is a trainable moment for a rider. And a proactive rider aid is not training the rider to be a better rider. So back in my day when I was a boy, look, a long time ago, when I had absolutely gorgeous curly hair, the thing is that I learned on the street, I learned on the track, and I learned when the bike started to communicate with you, that meant that you were probably doing something wrong. You'd get a little bit of a head shake. You'd get a little bit of a rear end shimmy. You're coming in hot into a turn. You're downshifting through the gears. These are bikes that didn't have slipper assist. You'd get a little bit of a tail wag, a little bit of rear brake to kind of settle that down in some cases. You've got every other thing that's out there, right? Rolling into the throttle, feel the back end of the bike come out. All of that will teach you something, right? But the more reactive, like the GSX-R 1000, lets you know where you are in the whole sphere, like the whole Venn diagram of the limits of the bike that you're on. It's one of the reasons why I was looking at a non-ABS, no quick shifter bike. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. In fact, I've discovered that I don't like quick shifters all that much. And I'm actually quicker without the quick shifter. Yeah, I'm better without it for the most part. So the proactive, on the other hand, it's weird because you never get an idea for where you are in that whole diagram of, your bubble of traction and the feel of the way that the bike is set up and what it's doing on the road. And what happens is when the proactive stuff kicks in, you're not learning anything because the bike's just kind of staying there. You might get a limp throttle. It's just like you roll into the throttle, there's nothing there. You're on the side of the bike, you're looking through your corner, you go to roll into that throttle and you're like, there's nothing, what's going on here? Whereas on my GSX-R 750 or 600, you're looking through the corner, you start rolling into the throttle and it immediately reacts. You're putting power to the rear tire. You'll feel it do some things as you're bringing the bike back up. You're already rolling in and you're pinned. And the power delivery is extremely intuitive, and it's linked right to your wrist where, and that's with nothing, right? Well, if these bikes have these very proactive, the nannies are extremely active with these bikes. I just feel like you never really get a solid idea for what the bike is truly doing underneath you. And then if you go to turn off all of those systems, the problem is that, first of all, what did you pay all this money for this technology if you're just going to turn it off? It's a liter bike's got about 200 horsepower, odd, give or take. Yeah, have a little bit of a safety net. That's cool, but it can't be as aggressive as these other bikes, I found myself just in a weird place. I got to where I didn't really trust what I was feeling with those bikes as I was trying to push them a little bit harder. There's some things that I'll do with them off camera that'll allow me the opportunity to speak like this onto those bikes. And I was just going, this is weird. Like it felt just kind of strange. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with the leader bike, the current crop of leader bikes now. And what scares me is that we have the GSXR 1000 for 2027 coming. One day my prince will come, right? And I'm hoping against hope that we do have something. Let me look up something here. I'm hoping that we have something coming, I don't know, here within the next, I don't know, couple of months. You know, that's the idea anyway, that we're going to have some kind of a, let me see if I can find something on the 2027, because that is the, well, that's the only date, that's the only bikes that we have really, are these 40th anniversary. Let's see, bear with me just a second, guys. And, you know, there's always a chance, you know. Let's see. There we go. GSXR. Oh, that's the wrong one too. Man, I'm just butchering this all up. Hold up. Is it this one? Well, we'll get around to it here in a second. I'm trying to find the latest. It's in here somewhere. Come on. Anyway, we'll get back to it. The idea though is that the issue is that I have a hard time just getting worked up over the leader bikes if they're gonna all be kind of rowing the same boat when it comes to this this technology that we all keep getting shackled down with. And a lot of guys, you know, it's okay to have the technology, but the thing is that then it gets down to that throttle mapping. And the problem with the throttle mapping is if it's inconsistent, that's where everybody's going to have kind of a series of problems with it, right? You don't want a bike that you can't trust. And it seems like that's, yeah, you can't trust to be consistent, I guess, is where I'm trying to go with that. So, you know, are we going to be seeing something like that coming down the pike? Yeah, maybe. But we'll just have to see. I'm trying to find, this is the problem. It's really hard to find any information on the GSXR 1000s coming up because they're just not available yet. Pricing is still to be determined. TBD. There we go. God, it took me a hot minute to get this sorted out. Oh, please. Let me get this back up. So here's the thing. If you're going to be looking at, you know, any of the newer modern interpretations of these bikes, for me, the GSXR 1000 is really the only one that I could sign off on. And even with that, I don't know what the rider aids are going to act like on this bike. Yeah, I got a ton of experience with this platform, but not with this electronic suite. And that's where I'm a little bit concerned, because if this bike acts anything like what the CBR 1000 RR acted like, that's going to be a little bit, that's going to be a bit of a bummer for me. So, but I really like this bike in yellow a ton. I love the look of this thing. I mean, dang. I mean, that would probably be the route that I would go. I would get an A model, would not get an R model again. that is a hard no for me. But get an A model, exhaust in a tune, and that'd be it. I wouldn't bother with anything else on that bike. And just, in fact, I've still got red alerts, all suspension setups, literally right behind this computer, right behind the camera. Set it up just like red alert, and that would be it. In fact, I've still got windscreens and all of that I could hook this bike up with. So, would it be worth it to give it another shot? Yeah, maybe, but it would only have to be this one, and I'd have to ride one before I bought it, because I would be bummed if I rode one of these things and it had just all of the nannies in full bloom the way that these things seem to go. So let me check in with you guys. Chef's saying so many sensors nowadays, it's like they're attempting to make things idiot proof, in my opinion, which may be great for the longevity of the machine, but I feel manufacturers are too many restrictions. I got you on that. So saying protecting your investment, maybe. What 40th anniversary color scheme do you favor for the 1000? Man, I'll tell you what, I prefer the yellow. And the reason why I prefer the yellow is it's the Corona colors. And I just kind of like it. You pull that one back up. So there's the Corona colors, and then here's the more traditional livery. And then for the R model, the R model you can get in, again, the traditional colors, and then you can get it in the red and white, which is, I mean, that thing is sick to death looking. You got to admit, I mean, that is a damn good looking motorcycle. But the only thing is, you can only get it as an R model. And if I were to get one, I would want an A model. And the reason for that, it's how they're sprung. The A model is sprung a little bit more stiff. And I like the BPF, I guess the best way to put it, rear shock, or shock, all shocks are in the rear, as opposed to the BFF rear shock that's on the R model. So a little bit more stiffly sprung and a little bit better fit for me anyway. I found that the A models were a bit more stable at higher speeds. But that's just, I mean, again, that's just been experience with these things. And that's also somebody at my weight, which is, just the other side of 200 pounds. All right, so you can find, here we go. Let's bring these bad boys back up. But yeah, you can get the blue and white in either the standard or the R model. So whichever one you prefer. We'll pull that one back up. I think that yellow really pops, shows off the lines of the bike really well, and it's the Corona colors. So I'm kind of cool with that too. Chef saying, I know a guy in a GSX-R 1000 that had his kickstand sensor disengaged, and it killed his ride home. Oh, damn. That's when you yank the wires and twist them together. Tyler's saying the red one is amazing. The red one is amazing. If you can get the red one in a standard bike, I'd probably go with the red. But the yellow is looking good to me. I like that. Again, stands out to me because it's the Corona colors, and yellow and blue is kind of a traditional Suzuki blend anyway. So in terms of colorways, that's probably the route that I would go. But there's no denying how good looking that red and white is. But again, I say all of this only with the understanding that you ride the thing and it doesn't act stupid once you start laying into the throttle. You don't start getting a whole lot of nanny intervention and all of that kicking in, which I wouldn't think that it would. Suzuki seems to be really good about about putting together systems that work well. And the system on the Gen 5 Hayabusa is really good. So if it works like the Gen 5 Hayabusa, it's going to be one hell of a bike. Which I'm guessing that it will. What are my price estimates? So I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say basically 16.9 for the base model and probably 18.9 for the R model would be what I would guess. Seems to be kind of the going rate. And then of course I'd get a tail cowl for it. And hopefully by the time they release it, somebody will start to be putting together a somebody will have a slip-on exhaust for this thing. Let's see. I mean, there is a there is a heck of a lot going on down here with that exhaust. But if you can see right here, the valve is part of the actual slip-on itself. So either way, you'd have to get a servo buddy for that. But it does have a longer, looks like it's got a little bit longer catalytic converter. Let's see here. May or may not affect, well, it's not really going to affect anything in terms of performance. I will tell you this, that can, I don't know what in the hell is going on with this can back here, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this. These bikes are heavier than the outgoing bike, but a lot of that has to do with the exhaust system. In fact, all of it, frankly, has to do with the exhaust system. And I would I would venture a guess that there's an easy 18 pounds, if not 20 pounds, tied up with this thing. So yeah, I would say a slip-on with a servo buddy, get you started in the right direction. And then, but what, I'll tell you something. Orange Crush's bike is a really good example. It's a buddy of mine. Really good example of, like, you can make 180 horsepower plus with the stock headers, stock catalytic converter, and a slip-on. Put a good tune on it and just get out there and have a ball with that bike. I think you'll be okay. But if you did decide to go full exhaust with it, this thing is with all the extras, but with a different cam profile, this bike is still going to be 185 horsepower, give or take, with a full exhaust. I mean, I wouldn't worry so much about that part of this bike. It's going to be plenty powerful. It's going to put down some pretty serious numbers, with the larger exhaust valves, the higher compression ratio, the bigger throttle bodies. There's a lot going on with this bike to make power. It does have a more restrictive exhaust system from what I gather, heavier a little bit in that respect too. Do you think they're maybe going to hold off and give us a TFT screen? Who knows? BAW is saying that was the 25's pricing. I wouldn't think they'd be that far off from the 25 prices. Maybe add a 500, $500. I think my 25 was 16.4, I believe. So that's why I was like 16.9 and 18.9, somewhere in that range. If it goes over 19 for the R model, let me tell you where that gets to be a problem. That puts you in some pretty aggressive company. And here's the thing. If you're going to come in at like 17 grand, might as well call it that, for the A model, that's the same price as the CBR 1000 RR. And the only real difference is the Kawasaki is going to come with a quick shifter, and that one is not. The R won't. So, then you just get into, okay, well, 17.2 with ABS, give or take, it's going to be within that range. Keith has got an interesting life situation going on here. Mickey's, I would get a K5 and throw everything at it. Lightweight rims, full build. No, the Power Superbikes has passed the K5, but I think it still checks all the boxes. So here's the thing. The K5 puts you right in the click when it comes to power. Because here's what ends up happening with these leader bikes. You get back out of this. The leader bike have a funny animal because the more power you throw at them, it's not like they handle better, right? The more power you throw at them, it's not like they stop better. The more power you throw at them, it's not like they get more stable at high speeds. The more power you throw at them, it's not like they get more comfortable. And so, if anything, the opposite of all of those statements would be true, right? I mean, the more power you throw at them, the more suspension you need. They're dealing with higher loads, so at slower speeds, it's going to be rougher. Hence the entire setup that I have on my whiteboard back here for an A model GSX-R 1000. Because to add stability, you have to add stiffness and the ability to manage the power and everything else that goes along with it. The thing is that there's a weird gray zone that I think I've figured it out. It's somewhere around 175 horsepower at the rear tire, up to 170, like a 170 on the nose. What's weird is that the bikes are really stable and they're really fun to ride up to that 170 horsepower mark. You've got all the leader bike drive out of corners. You got plenty of horsepower on tap. I mean, what's not to love about 170 horsepower to the rear tire, no less. You're rolling into the throttle that, you're able to drive the rear end of that bike as you're exiting corners. You can really place the bike with the throttle. And you can do that with a leader bike at about that power number. By the way, GSX-R 600 and GSX-R 750 and the 636 feel a lot like that at that power level, but they've got more aggressive gearing and can play with more RPM than the leader bikes do at the same speeds. But it's after that number, that 170 to 175 is where things get real interesting. And then it's at that 180 mark is where the bikes just quit being fun. You start to get, if you've tried to get the bike to be a bit more compliant on the street, it's when they make that extra little bit amount of power that they'll want to squat the rear end just a little bit, enough to get the front end to shake a little bit. Or, they start to run up against nannies a little bit too soon once you crest into those numbers. And it's just, all this has to do with at that point is like tire technology and what that tire will allow you to put to the ground and all of that. There are some mitigating factors here, but I've just discovered that, if you, at some point, you're going to start to notice that the bike is either you've got it set up and it does great out in the twisties and you're having a blast with it on track, but on the road, it just kind of beats you up a little bit. Then you try to adjust for that. And then it gets a little bit hairy here and there on the street. And that's adorable every once in a while, especially if you're on track. But, when you're in a non-controlled environment, these types of things are very unwelcome. So, let's see. Skid saying, more power, not always better. Skid saying, good evening, B. Oh, yeah. Bald guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. Meek saying, right in the click. That's right. 1320 is asking, do I recommend trikes? And if so, are there any that you particularly like? I don't like trikes. Some guys love them, though. I mean, I'm not really a Philo Beto kind of dude, but I can tell you this. For the guys that like trikes, that's the only way that they'll ride. Some of the older guys kind of need a trike because it's a little bit too difficult to manage one of the larger cruiser type bikes. If that's what we're talking about, like a bike, the conversion, or like Harley Davidson trike. I don't like them because you no longer are counter steering. And I cannot ride a trike because it throws me completely off my game. This kid saying GSXR 250. It's GSX 250R, by the way. Ninja's already on 500. Yeah. Skids. Yeah, gotta see which one fits. Oh, so Skid's talking about the Can-Am. So if we're talking about the inverted stuff, you know, something with a cockpit and a steering wheel, or wait, no, like the Can-Ams, right? Okay, that's another one, man. I can't, if it's got handlebars, I need it to be on two wheels. If it's got two wheels, you know, more than two wheels, I almost feel like it needs to have a steering wheel. Because coming from a bike, you know, you push the direction that you want to go. If I'm on a handlebar and I turn it like, I can't even do it. My brain's like, it short circuits. Freaks out. Skid saying the spider if I just have to. There's a bunch of spiders running around here. What I love about the spiders is when they're all decked out with the lights and the sound systems and everything. I like it when guys, I mean, something like that, it's supposed to be fun. You know, I liked it. I like when guys try not to take those things too seriously, because I certainly don't. What was the one that had the Chevy motor in it? Oh, what was it called? It's a good looking thing. Oh, heck. What was it? Anyway, there's another one floating around out there that's got I think it's a Chevrolet 4-cylinder in it. Can't remember the name of it. But yeah, you know, like a 3-wheeled conveyance, you know, 2 wheels up front, 1 in the back. Yeah, I'm cool with it if it's got a steering wheel. If it's got handlebars, man, I don't want nothing to do with it. There's one up at the dealership that I won't even ride. It's a Can-Am, and I'm like, no, we cool. Thing scares the shit out of me. But again, there's folks that get on them and they absolutely love them. The thing is that you have to ride it like it's a big jet ski. As long as you think of it like that, then you're good. Tyler's liking the T-Rex. T-Rexes are cool. Skid saying the slingshot is awful. I really like hot rodding look. One has the Ecotech. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that one's got the Ecotech 4. What is it? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm seeing the name in my head and I just can't rattle it off. But anyway, yeah, not a huge fan. Again, only because motorcycles versus cars, 3 wheels. Anyway, it throws me off. But oh yeah, getting back to the leader bike thing. Oh, and other bikes. So for me, Vanderbilt, that's what it is. Hold on, I'll show you what that is, guys. It's a hang on. I think these things were Vanderhall. Let's see if I can pull this thing up here. Bear with me here. Looks like they've got all kinds of crap that they've got out. They got a side-by-side that looks pretty trick. The Brawley. Ooh, the Brawley. It is the Santa Rosa GTS. There you go. There we go. All right. Yeah, feast your eyes. I mean, look, maybe not my cup of tea, but you know, some folks like this kind of stuff. There's the GTS. There is a GT model, and then there's just a regular model. There you go. You can reserve yours now. Ah, what did I do? I screwed up. I am not doing this right. Here we go. And then they also have, hold on, the Brawley. I don't know what this is. I mean, that looks pretty cool right here. I mean, I'd probably bypass everything else and go with the 404 horsepower, 488 pound-feet of torque of whatever this thing is. That thing looks pretty slick. Skid saying my phone kept correcting me. Vendor Hall did have a 6-speed manual for the money to get a used Miata. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. What are we even looking at? Hold on. Now that we're looking at this, let's just kind of dive. Let's sniff around here. Oh, specialty colors you can get. Ooh, well, what does blue look like? Oh, so it's just the top portion of it. Oh, you can get a metallic color. What's that green looking like? There we go. For $1,000, they'll paint about 6 inches of the top of that thing in your favorite color. Robin's egg blue. Oh, wait, high vis. Here we go. There we go. All right. Now it looks like it just rolled off a Triumph dealership. So, wait a minute. What is this crap? What the hell is this crap? No. Oh, no. No. It's electric. Eject. Mission. Abort. Abort mission immediately. Nasty. Okay, getting back to it. Skids, H2 side by side, Cali Pride kick its ass. Probably would. But anyway, I wanted to follow up with you guys. Oh, so I wanted to talk about the R9. So, you know, the thing is that, you know, I'm having a hard time reconciling the R9, mainly because, you know, we're talking about leader bikes, right? Well, the thing is that leader bikes and R9s are not the same thing. And an R9 does not make 90% of what a leader bike makes, even though it's 90% of the displacement. And it's 100% the size, right? And so you look at it and you go, man, I just don't know that. I don't know that I would ever necessarily be a player on that bike, except for one thing. And it's a major one thing. The one thing about that bike is that it's, and I keep saying this, it's like the Daytona 955 that we were never given. Like just a more modern interpretation of the Triumph Daytona 955 that I have. I've got one. It's my dad's bike. It is it's a T595. Don't let the name fool you. That's just a chassis designation. It is a 955cc triple. All of these things are going to start to sound very similar when you start talking about power output, power to weight ratios, and all of that. And when I start to think of the R9, I have to remain grounded. I can't try to compare it to the GSX-R 600, R6, 636. I can't get into that headspace. I've got to remember what kind of engine it is and the mission statement of that bike. Even though it's won a bunch of races, albeit in a highly modified form. As opposed to, you know, you can't even race a stock GSX-R 750 in super sport class. It makes too much power. See what I mean? But the more I look at the R9, the more I like it. I know that I've been a bit of a prick to the R9 in general, but the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking that if I could find one, I'd bring one into the channel. I would like to do some comparisons between the R9 and the GSX-R 600 and the GSX-R 750s. And I know what someone would say, well, the GSX-R 750s are modified. That's not going to be a fair fight. Well, I do a pretty good job of comparing a stock GSX-R 600 to those modified GSX-R 750s. And there are times when I prefer the 600 over the 750s. Okay, so if that's the case, and I make no bones or excuses about this, I freaking love my GSXR 600. I can put an R9 up against either one of those bikes and take it as it is. Because let's face it, you know, when you start talking about modifying these bikes and you get more power, I guess, but you don't, a lot of the times you don't really even notice it. And I'll be really clear. I want to be honest. I want to be clear when I say this. If you had a GSXR 750 that was stock, you just picked it up from the dealership, got it to the house, and you had these following parts waiting for you, you wouldn't have anything else to do with the bike. You'd be fine. Trust me. You wouldn't have to spend the money on a tune and on an exhaust. All you would need is a little M4 GP style slip-on so that it sounds good. It's not loud. It just sounds deeper. And you would put 1/2 smaller sprocket on the front of that bike. And that's not necessarily for power or performance. It's to kill some of the droning of the airbox going down the highway. That's it. You can rock the BT 016s. I would probably put a set of S22s or S23s on it, the Bridgestones that I like, mainly because they're just a more robust tire. And I've had blowouts on every set of BT 016s that I've had, I think, leading up to this point, or at least on the last two. So put a set of tires on it, put a little can on it so it sounds good and beefy, re-gear it, and then that's it. If you like windscreens, put your favorite windscreen on it. If you like mirrors or don't like mirrors, swap them out for the little blinkers and the block offs that I have. But outside of that, you don't have to do anything to that bike, and it is going to be awesome. Whereas the R9, and don't worry about suspension fiddling. Just get on the bike and ride it. I rarely, if ever, do any tuning with that bike. But the R9, on the other hand, a little bit different story. It's a bigger bike. It's a leader class sized bike. It weighs leader class weight. It also is infested with nannies and rider aids. And again, that XSR that I rode has to be the Avatar, that tuned XSR 900, mind you. Awesome bike. Loved it. And for the channel, it won Sport Naked of the Year. But I just don't know that that power plant is fit for a sport bike. But every bike except for Gixxers seem to need a tune. So throw a tune at it. Maybe put a filter in it. Airbox mod it if you want. I don't know. It already comes with a 520 chain. And now you're going to have a bike that is going to have all the nannies that you want, none of the restrictions. And you're going to have a bike that's going to be fun on the street. Although I wouldn't put it in the same league as a GSXR 750 for an experienced rider. And I mean somebody that is top of B group or somewhere in A group. I don't mean, an experienced rider that has done a couple of track days and gets lapped in B group. That's not who I'm talking about. And get out of B group if you're going to be that guy anyway. B group's for a lot of really fast street riders that don't have racing experience. It's like a freaking melee in B group. So anyway, it's more fun, by the way. But anyway, I'm getting off the chart here. But that is the bike that you would want before your more modern leader bike. If you're coming to leader bike from a GSXR 750, and that's what I was trying to convey with that CBR 1000 RR from a GSXR 750's point of view, all the nannies in the CBR made it feel slow compared to my GSXR 750. And I mean, what you guys see me do on video, I am not at all railing on the bikes whatsoever. I mean, I'll get the bike well on the side of the tire. I'm looking through the corner. You can see the bank angle. You see what I'm doing. And it looks like, oh my goodness. Those are the guys that are in the know are just going, slow. He's having fun though. And that's all that matters. That's what you'll get, right? But off camera, I will turn the wick up on him. And the thing is that because if you're coming from an R9 and you're used to the nannies and you're used to having them employed while you ride the bike, again, the CBR 1000 or the R1 is going to be a little bit better bike for you than the GSXR 1000 that just does not, the current one, by the way, not the one that's coming because we don't know yet. Those are going to be the bikes that you just don't you don't have the kind of intervention that you do with the CBRs, and it is going to throw you off. But my argument is that if you're actively playing and practicing, I think you'd be better off with the GSX-R 1000. But that's just me because, you know, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to Suzuki's. Anyway, let's see. Boss asking, is Arai your go-to skull saver? You would think so, given all the Arais that are up here, but believe it or not, my Shoei, I've got a Shoei 1400, I think. Is it a 14 or a 13? What is it? Or a 12? Hang on. You got me wondering what the hell my head goes into over here. So, my Shoei, which is the 1400, that's the bike. This is the helmet you'll see me wearing if I'm not filming. So this is my helmet that you would see me on if I'm not filming. The camera rig, on the other hand, is a Scorpion. It's a 320. And I gotta say what you will about these cheap ass Scorpion helmets. They're very quiet. They're fairly light. And this thing has been phenomenal. But the only thing I don't like, and I got to figure out a way to get some anti-fog on these visors. But that's really only an issue for when it's cold. The 320, the Scorpions have been really good, and they fit exceptionally well. The latest crop of Arais just don't fit like the older ones do. So the gray and black one right there, that's a helmet that I've had forever and ever. It's a Singlet large. And if I try to wear a Singlet large, a new one, it just does not fit my head the same way. But that is a Singlet. That's a Singlet. That's a Suomi. That's an HJC. And that is another Scorpion 320. And then that's a Bell right there. It's a vintage Bell, my dad's helmet. Let's see. Skid saying, love my Arai Singlet. Just got a Shoei Ecotech 3 modular. Starting to be my favorite. Nothing against the Arai. I love Arais. They don't fit like the older ones do. Skids, hit the thumbs up. Mickey saying Yamaha is making the top R1 race teams make the R1 race bikes. Yeah, there is a big difference between what you see on the street. BAW's got an X14, likes the KYTs. Skids liking the Scorpion helmet. I mean, I love the I'm not kidding, guys. These Scorpion helmets have turned out to be like awesome. You know, it's a good looking helmet. I don't know, the little lightning bolt, little S up here. Yeah, I don't know about that, but you know, I'm cool with it. Whatever, marketing, branding. If you want to do that, do it. But man, they're quiet. They're easy to mount cameras and everything else up to. So I'm cool with it. I like my Shoei. I like the 1400 a lot. This is also a fairly quiet helmet. This helmet, I really don't. I mean, it's a little on the tight side, but that's good. I like that. But you know, each helmet's going to have its own, you know, thing about them that makes them unique. So, but yeah, the Shoei probably one of my favorite helmets. But I got to say, if I'm just going to go out and buy another helmet, it's going to be a Scorpion because they're very inexpensive, and in medium they fit me really, really well. Hang on just a second, y'all. Need to refuel the computer. There we go. I'll say nice collection. Thank you. Although I love Shoei's, I have to say I'm using my Shark Spartan more and more, mainly because of how clear the vision is. I love the dark visor. Nice. So I can looking for something that'll flow some air. How the Scorpion's airflow, man, they're actually really good. So check this out. On the Scorps, you've got these scoops here. It's not like, hold on. Okay, so let me show you this. These scoops right here, the little cat ears, when you click that sucker open, it will flow like crazy in hot weather. and then it just evacuates on the backside over here. So between that and the vent, I keep this one open. Normally I like to roll closed when I'm filming. You'll know I've screwed up when I'm filming if I open this up, because you'll hear it in the microphone. So when I'm filming, I try to remember to shut this thing. But if I'm out and about and it's foggy or something like that, I've got to open this thing up to try to get some airflow through it. But these things, because of the cat ears, they flow like crazy in terms of getting airflow through. So no complaints about that. The Shoei, on the other hand, a little bit different. You've got a main vent here up top, and then you've got two side vents up here. So they're at wide open right now. And these things will flow quite a bit. I mean, no doubt about it. But as far as which one is, but this can get a little bit noisy. All helmets do when you start opening up the vents. You would expect that. But I roll this one down pretty much all the time. And if I ever am riding, I need to cool off, I just open the main one, and then you're good to go with that. Oh, Skid saying he was considering a 3/4 lid and some goggles. I have a hard time, unless I'm just putting around town, I have a hard time not wearing a helmet. Does the Scorp have the airbag pump? No, it does not. These are the 320s. So these are really more of a kind of an entry level helmet, I guess you would call them. But no, these don't have any of that in it. You know what's funny? I never thought that I would, go, oh yeah, Scorpion helmet. I never thought I would be that guy. I was like, Scorpion, dude, I'm telling you, they're awesome helmets. Yeah, Ball's asking, do you ever show up at COTA for the MotoGP? You know what's funny is that the first year for MotoGP, I had planned on it. And then ever since then, something's come up and I haven't been able to make it. I used to live not far from COTA. So yeah, I wouldn't mind going. I'll tell you that. It's funny. They were talking about COTA. Who was saying something like this? Was it Spike? Saying that they were going to not allow motorcycle track days, or they're going to limit bikes on COTA. I can't remember. I will say this: I wouldn't mind starting to do some track days again. I miss it. I just don't have the time to invest in it anymore. But I wouldn't mind getting back on track. That's something that I do miss a lot. And it'd be kind of nice to figure out where I am still in the whole grand scheme of things as far as being able to get around a track. I guess for that, I'd have to go to Thunder Hill, but I wouldn't mind, getting out and getting the bike on, on a little bit more of on a aggressive setting, Although I do have fun when I get a chance to get on any of my bikes. But anyway, I digress. Oh yeah, talking about the R9. So I'm at a bit of a quandary with the R9, and like I say, I've been kind of shitting on that bike a little bit, but you know what? We always, you always kind of shit on something that you want. I do kind of, I need to throw a leg over that bike. And if I can make something happen, I at least want to be able to throw a leg over one of those bikes. BAW saying, do you work for Stubbs or what's going on there? I'm friends with the owners of that establishment. And you can say I don't really work for them. But I work with them. They're partners of mine. They allow me the opportunity to bring these bikes to you. So I've got basically free reign over any of the bikes that are at the shop to bring you guys content with. If I am at Stubbs Cycles, I will help out with customers. If customers have more detailed questions, I'm always happy to work with them, walk them through different bikes, the different nuances. Some of the guys that want to get into the weeds with technical specifications or experience levels with the bike. That's what I'm there to do. So if somebody says, you know, hey, I really like the GSX 8TT, but you know, nobody's ridden it or nobody's, you know, had an opportunity to enjoy the bike out in the world. They don't really have a lot of firsthand knowledge outside of maybe a ride and review that they saw me do or somebody else do on the internet. So in that case, I'll talk to them about the bike, what I like about it. Hopefully get them on the bike, you know, get them out there with Tommy. He'll take them on a test ride and, you know, let him feel the bike out. It's one thing that we don't have a problem with at Stubbs. Get over there, throw your leg over the thing. If you like it, if you're serious about picking one up, you want to ride it, take it for a spin. You know, that's what they're there for. They're not statues. You know, you got to ride the things. And so, you know, I'm there to act more as like a customer liaison for guys. If there's anything that is needed of me, then I make sure that I take care of it for them. So, but yeah, I mean, they'll, you know, some guys will see my videos and they'll go, oh, I want to go check out that bike. And they'll go up there and, you know, sometimes they'll buy one, sometimes they'll buy something else, or, you know, they'll ride it and go, man, I kind of want something else. And then that'll, you know, at least get them back in the dealership and they can start finding bikes that work for them. But that's what's up with that. Love me some Hunter, love me some Tommy, and the rest of the gang at Stubbs Cycles. And thank y'all very much. But with that, oh yeah, so you know, R9 maybe, but I want to try to throw a leg over one here, and if I can, then I will be maybe bringing you guys a report as far as what I think that bike is like getting down the road. I think it's going to be at, I think it's going to be one of those things where I'm at a bit of a crossroads because of my dad's bike. It's very similar in terms of power. It's very similar in terms of power to weight. It's not at all the same bike though. And I'm kind of curious if I can ride one, if there's any correlation between the two bikes, because they're both triples and they're both roughly the same displacement. So we'll see how that ends up working out. It's kind of a weird, how do you say? It's kind of a weird, you don't really call it a comparison because, you know, it's a 30-year-old bike versus a bike that's new. But it's weird how similar the bikes are in their placement versus more powerful bikes. You know, when my dad's bike was released, there was the distance between the galaxies of GSX-R 750, CBR 900, CBR 954, R1, Daytona 955. You know, those, you could kind of see these, you know, see each other without going over the horizon, if you will, in terms of power and performance envelopes. Now, so in other words, that Daytona wouldn't have been as fast as an R1, for example, or a 954 for its day, but it wouldn't have been that far off, right? Like just in terms of power to weight and going down the road and, you know, 3 nods and you're gone, right? Not talking about handling. That's a whole different topic here. But just in terms of how does this critter get down the road, that's where you're going to have, you know, okay, let's see what they are like to ride first. And then we get into the handling and all that other stuff. Let's see what the power's like. To be honest, guys, the R9 is my dad's bike, but today. It's just that it sits in the middle, for example, and the leader bikes have just moved further away from the middle, right? The GSX-R 750 was already pretty far this way. It just really hasn't moved much. It's going, and that's about it, right? But leader bikes are like not even on the screen anymore. And then you have these other bikes like the R7, the Daytona 660. The Aprilia 660 almost doesn't fit into this. The Aprilia 660 is kind of like what gets you into the same level as the R9. But those are lower than. So that's why I say the R9 sits right there in the middle, right? And that's where my dad's Daytona sat back in the day. It was gruntier than a 750, but it just didn't make the horsepower. So the 750 of today still kind of stands to me right about here, because I know that I'm faster on a 750 and the 600 for that matter than I would be on an R9. But that's not why we're here, because the R9 has got this, let's all say it together. I got to take a drink. Usable power. Talk about that. Anyway, it's got the usable power, which it only means that it has mid throttle turn torque application. It says it's grunty here, not, all the way over. That's where I'm at with this bike. So the more I think about it, the more I like it. And the more I think about it, the more that bike starts to make sense. So what would y'all think if I brought on an R9 onto the channel? I mean, I got to, you guys are the ones that stick around the longest and, or the more hardcore, watchers of the channel. Thank you, by the way. And statistically speaking, we're the ones that usually give a super chat. So very much, thank you very much. But what would you be interested? Would you be interested in R9 content? The alternative to that would be, would you even be interested in Hayabusa content? And the thing is that I'm torn on the Hayabusa thing because, this is the part of the show, by the way, where I talk about, I talk to you guys, about possible upcoming bikes. The problem with the Busa for me is I don't know what I would do with it. I love the bike, and the problem is I rode one and fell in love with it. But the issue is that I just don't know what I would end up doing with it. I can't really ride it the way that I'm used to riding motorcycles. And I don't really have local half mile and mile events that I could do with it, which would be the main reason why I would buy that bike. So a little bit on the fence with a Hayabusa. But man, I love the bikes, and it's a legendary bike. I mean, it kind of stands alone in that respect. I just don't want to have to give up a bike to get one, which I don't know. We'll see. I'd rather see on an R1, dude. Let me tell you something about R1s. First of all, expensive. Second of all, I want one really bad though. Thirdly, I need to spend more time with one, because if you go back and you watch when I do the ride review on the R1, first of all, there's some stuff off camera that I just was off. I turned, actually it's this side, off. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with that bike, and the throttle mapping is way better than the Honda, by the way, on the R1. But if you watch that video, there's a string of videos, and I was trying to find excuses to keep riding the bike. And so that bike is the bike that I started doing the brake test, that you'll run them up, hit the brakes. It was just an excuse for me to pull a little power wheelie across the back parking lot before I rolled on the brake, trail braking into the corner in the parking lot. Like, whee, motorcycle. Anyway, I was having way too much fun with that bike, man. I had a riot with that bike, and I loved how it sounded too. Mickey saying, get a paywall for the spirited ride moments. I've thought about that. There's a limit to what I can put out there. I don't want to be egging anybody on to do something that they ought not do, which again is one of the reasons why whenever I do the trip into our favorite S turn, one of the things is I always try to teach, and I always try to explain to folks what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Right. So, whether I'm coming into carousel and coming in hot into carousel, here's our bump, boop, and you'll hear me do that. And, on the side of the tire, looking through the corner, I'm literally narrating this as I'm riding the bike. A lot of people go, how do you dub over that? I'm going, dub over it, dude. I'm talking as I'm riding. Well, one of the things is that what I'll do is I will say, addressing our favorite S turn, and you'll hear me pipe the bike up. What I'm doing is like, why are you speeding up and then slowing down? What I'm doing is I'm practicing closing distance management. Okay. And then it's dropping the bike in, picking our line, dropping the bike in, picking our line, making sure we are cognizant of where we are beginning this turn as we are looking at our mark, looking through to where we want to be, and scanning as you go, right? Doing your lightning bolt scan as you go. Looking through the corner maintenance throttle, power on exit, power, and you'll see me rolling into the throttle and going wide open as I'm exiting that turn. And then it's trail braking or off the brake, catch a downshift, dropping in, and I'm doing all that. I'm talking you guys through exactly. I'm not thinking this, but it's an opportunity. If you ever get a chance to watch it, the reason why I'm doing that is a lot of times guys get really nervous about, lean angles and approach speeds and things like that. And I'm just talking you through, like, look, if you're practicing, just remember that you practice each one of these disciplines as it is. Make sure you're looking first where you want to go, and then everything else will follow. Just mark your lines. That's the main thing. So anyway, that's why I do all of that. Terminator saying Busa. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the Busa, okay, I love the bike the way that it is. And the problem is with the Busa, I'd be tempted just to leave it alone. Because I like that it's quiet. I like that it's just a torque monster. And I love the way that the bike feels when you're rowing that thing through the gears. It is hysterically quick. For a damn near 600-pound Leviathan, that thing hauls ass, and it's so smooth and it's so just buttery with the power, especially the Gen 3s, because they make more power down low. You talk about usable power, just get you a Busa, right? So anyway, it's one of the things that I was thinking about, okay, are we going to, maybe, because if I got an R9, I could pit it up against the 600, the 750s, give a true, honest review of the bike as it, the R9 from a GSXR 750 owner's perspective, the R9 from a GSXR 600 owner's perspective, the R9 from a former ZX6R 636 owner's perspective. There's a lot that I can talk about with the R9 that I really can't talk about with the Hayabusa, even though I really would love to have one. Like, really would love to have it. But with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. This time change, man. Are y'all feeling this too? Man, it's like the day is compressed. So I'll wake up earlier than I normally would, go to sleep. It's just weird. Why we have, just pick a daylight savings that you want. Do you want it to be lighter later, or darker later, or lighter earlier? I don't know. However it works out. I don't know. Anyway, with that, guys, I got to go ahead and wrap it up. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. But with that, thanks for stopping by the channel. If you made it this far into the show, for crying out loud, hit that subscribe button. Helps me out way more than you know. But I got to wrap it up. Y'all take care.